Imagine spending like 10 hours a month meticulously tracking every penny you spend on a budgeting app.
Right. Color coding every single expense.
Exactly. You proudly pass on that $4 coffee and you're feeling incredibly financially responsible, right? But then you find out that that exact habit is, well, it's the psychological trap keeping you from actually building wealth.
It sounds totally backwards, I know, because we are universally taught that financial discipline is basically synonymous with restriction.
Hmm.
We think being good with money means building this tighter box around our income.
Making sure nothing spills out.
Exactly. But managing a limited resource is a fundamentally different skill than extending it.
Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. Our mission today is to completely reframe how you think about your personal wealth.
Yeah, we're taking a really fascinating look at the psychology behind our money.
We are. Specifically, we're diagnosing your financial personality based on some brilliant source material called Mastering Your Financial Roles, from CEO to CFO.
It's great text.
It really is. And the core argument here completely upends conventional budgeting advice. It suggests that the reason so many smart, responsible people feel stuck isn't because they're bad with money, it's because they are playing the entirely wrong role in their own lives.
Yeah, to understand your own financial behavior, you kind of have to look at the corporate world. Any successful company survives because it has distinct roles, right?
Sure.
Operating with fundamentally different psychologies.
Right.
And the two most critical drivers of that machine are the chief executive officer and the chief financial officer.
Now, I always pictured the CEO as the ultimate top dog making it rain, you know? But in the context of this specific financial framework from the source, the roles are defined a bit differently.
We are, yeah.
The CFO is driven almost entirely by the psychology of income, while the CEO is driven by the psychology of expenditure.
Let's unpack this. What does the CFO actually do here?
Well, let's look at the corporate CFO first.
Huh.
They aren't hovering over the break room, making sure people aren't using too many coffee pods.
No, definitely not. Right. They are looking 1, 2, maybe 3 years down the line. Their whole mental architecture is built around expansion, managing cash flow, and actively seeking opportunities.
So they're on the offense.
Exactly. The fundamental question driving a CFO is, where do we get the capital and how do we multiply it?
Got it. So they aren't just handed a static budget to oversee. They're the ones actually creating the budget through revenue generation.
That's right. Now contrast that with the CEO in this model. The CEO is handed that generated budget, and their job is to basically keep the machine running.
They're managing what's already there.
Yes, they are the master of outgoing funds. Their driving question is, how do we distribute what we have efficiently? Their entire focus is optimization, operational control, and, staying strictly within limits.
Okay, let me try to put a visual on this. If personal finance is a road trip, the CEO mindset is the person behind the wheel calculating exactly how many miles they can squeeze out of a single tank of gas.
Right, turning off the air conditioning.
Totally. Checking the tire pressure to reduce drag, driving at exactly 55 miles per hour to maximize fuel efficiency. But the CFO isn't even looking at the gas stage.
No, they don't care about the gas gauge.
The CFO is figuring out how to buy a tow truck so they can haul other people's cars and get paid for the gas.
I love that. That's the perfect distinction. The CEO optimizes the depletion of a resource, while the CFO figures out how to acquire more of the resource.
And you need both, right?
Absolutely. In a functioning company, both of those functions are totally necessary. You need someone driving the revenue, and you need someone efficiently managing the operations.
Because if you only have a CFO, the company just burns through cash recklessly.
Yeah, and if you only have a CEO, the company stagnates. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the tragedy of personal finance and what the source material points out so clearly is that almost everyone lives purely with a CEO mindset.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Think about what happens when the average person gets their paycheck. The money hits the account, and the immediate instinctual thought is allocation.
Right. It's like, I have this much for rent, this much for groceries, this much for the credit card.
Exactly. Money is viewed strictly as a resource for expenditure. Even the act of saving is often just delayed expenditure, right?
Yeah, setting money aside to spend on a vacation later or an emergency down the road.
Right. Because we have this overwhelming cultural focus on distribution and limits, the inner CFO, the part of the brain that should be asking, how do I multiply this capital, is left entirely dormant.
So we've basically hired a brilliant operations manager to run our lives, but we completely forgot to hire a sales director.
That is exactly what's happened.
So the company of you is running incredibly efficiently, straight toward a permanent plateau.
Yeah, and this dynamic isn't just a quirk of individual psychology either. The source actually highlights a macro to micro model that shows how pervasive the CEO versus CFO divide is at every level of society.
Okay, let's look at that. And just a quick note for you listening, we're just reporting the framework presented in the sources here. It's an observational model, not any sort of political stance on taxation or government structure.
Right, purely analytical. So it's striking when you look at the state level. The business sector acts as the CFO.
Hmm.
The businesses are the entities out there earning money, generating revenue, innovating, and paying taxes.
Okay. And the government acts as the CEO. It receives that generated budget, and its primary function is expenditure, distributing those resources to build roads, fund schools, keep the societal machine running.
Exactly. One entity generates, the other distributes. Two entirely different psychologies.
It's everywhere.
It really is.
Yeah.
You drop down a level to the corporate world, which we just discussed, and you see the exact same split.
Yeah.
And then you drop down to the most intimate level of organization, which is the family unit.
The classic household dynamic. Historically, and even in many modern single-income households, you see this exact divide under one roof.
You really do.
You have one partner primarily focused on earning the income, taking on that CFO role, while the other partner manages the household expenses, the bills, the daily logistics. They're embodying the CEO role.
And you can often see the friction this creates when those two psychologies clash over a kitchen table, right?
Oh, totally. The CFO wants to take a risk or invest in a new venture, and the CEO is hyper-focused on the immediate cash flow limits and the safety of the current budget.
Wait, let me push back on this, though.
Sure.
If we are talking about you, the listener, trying to build wealth, isn't being a highly efficient CEO the ultimate goal of conventional financial advice? I mean, we are constantly told to live within our means, track every penny, clip coupons, maximize the 401k match.
Right, yeah.
It feels like society actually wants us to be CEOs.
This raises an important question, and the source makes a really counterintuitive point here. Society teaches the CEO mindset because it's safe, it's
Oh.
controllable, and it prevents immediate disaster.
Sure, disaster prevention is good. It is. But there is a massive difference between preventing disaster and creating wealth. Optimizing limits does not break you out of them.
Wait, say that again? Optimizing limits does not break you out of them.
Exactly. If you are a fantastic CEO of your personal finances, it just means you are highly efficient at depleting your resources.
Wow. So if your income is a pie, you are just an expert at slicing it into the perfect slivers so everyone gets a bite.
Yes,
But you have absolutely no idea how to bake a second pie.
that's it exactly.
Uh-huh.
Efficiency in spending does not create wealth. It just manages the depletion. You can't shrink your way to wealth. Mathematically, there's a floor to how much you can cut your expenses.
Right. You can only cut until you hit zero.
And realistically, you can't even get close to zero because you have to, eat and live.
Mhm.
But there is mathematically no ceiling to how much you can increase your income.
That is mind-blowing. We are so culturally obsessed with slicing the pie that we've completely blinded ourselves to the bakery.
We have
But the source material takes this a step further, and this is where it gets a little painful to admit. A lot of us aren't even operating as CEOs. We've actually demoted ourselves to an even lower rung on the corporate ladder.
Yeah, this part is tough.
We are playing the role of the accountant. Let's talk about the accountant.
The accountant is the third role, and understanding this mindset is critical to breaking out of the trap. In any organization, the accountant's sole job is to record what has already happened.
The past.
Right. They document past facts, they systematize data, and they generate reports. They live entirely, 100% in the past.
They don't plan for future income like the CFO.
Right.
And they don't even manage future operations like the CEO. They just look at the wake of the boat and tell you how fast you were going yesterday.
Which brings us back to that trap we opened with. The source argues that almost all modern financial apps, like the one sitting on your phone right now, are just digital accountants.
Ouch.
They are beautifully designed, they sync to your bank, they categorize your Uber rides and coffee purchases, and they give you these wonderful, colorful pie charts at the end of the month.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Relying on those expense tracking apps to build wealth is like trying to win a basketball game by only staring at the scoreboard from the previous quarter.
That's a great way to put it.
You're recording history. You can know exactly how many points you missed in the first half. You can analyze the footage from every angle, but none of that puts the ball in the hoop in the second half.
Exactly. And the psychological danger of the accountant mindset is that it gives you a false sense of control over an unpredictable economy.
Because it feels like you're doing something.
Right. When you open your app and tag a transaction, you feel productive. You feel financially responsible.
Yeah.
But you haven't actually changed your financial reality at all. You've merely organized your financial history.
You're substituting administration for actual strategy.
Yes, you're patting yourself on the back for beautifully formatting the autopsy report of your paycheck.
Oh, that is brutal. But it's so true.
That false sense of progress is why smart people hide behind budgeting apps. The economy is intimidating. Asking for a raise is terrifying. Starting a side business involves risk.
But categorizing a $12 lunch.
That's safe.
Hmm.
It's a soothing mechanism, and the developers of these apps know this. They gamify the restriction. They give you a red bar when you overspend and a green bar when you don't, training your brain to hyperfixate on the past.
Wait, so is there any software out there that actually builds the CFO mindset, or are we doomed to just delete all our apps?
Well, the source does highlight one notable exception. It's an app called MoneyWorks. And what makes it unique is a very deliberate design choice. It consciously displays your income on its main screen.
Just income.
Not your expenses, not your spending categories. Income.
Honestly, that feels incredibly uncomfortable. Like if I open an app and it just shows me what I earned today and that number hasn't moved, I think I'd panic. I'm so used to looking at what I lost.
But that discomfort is the mechanism of change. By forcing you to look at your income, the app actively tries to activate your inner CFO. It shifts your psychological baseline from a defensive posture of what did I lose to an offensive posture of what did I generate.
Which is the perfect pivot to the most important part of this deep dive. How do you, the listener, practically apply this?
Right, the application.
If you are a regular salaried employee, how do you fire your inner accountant, step away from the daily grind of the CEO, and actually promote your inner CFO? Give me the mechanism, because if my salary is static, waking up and asking how much did I earn today feels like a completely pointless exercise.
My mechanism relies on cognitive dissonance. Your brain hates static numbers when it deeply desires growth. Right now, the accountant is asking, where did my money go? And the CEO is asking, how can I cut expenses to make this budget work?
Both of those questions keep your brain focused on defense.
Exactly. You're playing not to lose, rather than playing to win. When you force yourself to ask, how much did I earn today? And the answer is simply your static salary divided by 365, it creates a powerful dissatisfaction.
Ah, I see.
That friction forces your brain to start looking for gaps in the market. It forces you to notice opportunities you were previously blind to because all your mental energy was tied up in feeling guilty about buying a latte.
Think about how much mental bandwidth we waste on minor financial guilt. The accountant or CEO mindset traps you in a cycle of agonizing over, like, a streaming subscription.
Yeah, $7 a month.
Right. If you take the exact same amount of brainpower you currently use to audit your grocery receipts and channel it into generating new revenue streams, the results would be staggering.
It translates into very real, tangible actions. The CFO mindset starts asking completely different questions. When was the last time I negotiated my compensation? Do I have a skill I can leverage for consulting on the weekends?
Is my cash sitting in a debt account, or is it in a high-yield vehicle generating its own income?
Exactly. Yeah. How can I acquire an asset that pays me?
Wait, let me stop you there and ask the obvious question. If I just focus on earning more, if I go full CFO and I completely ignore the CEO role, won't I just succumb to lifestyle creep?
Right.
Like, I'll earn an extra $1,000 a month and I'll just spend an extra $1,000 a month. How does this framework prevent you from just scaling up your spending until you go broke anyway?
Well, you don't fire the CEO. Remember, in a successful company, both roles exist. You demote the accountant, you let the CEO run the baseline operations quietly in the background, but you put the CFO in the driver's seat.
Okay, so it's about your primary focal point.
Activating your inner CFO is not a license to be reckless. It simply means recognizing that while your CEO handles the current pie, your primary energy must be spent figuring out how to build the bakery.
It's moving from scarcity to abundance. The conventional budgeting rules aren't evil, they just trap you in a defensive posture.
Thank you.
If you blindly accept the rule that the only way to get rich is to save 10% of a stagnant income, you are going to be waiting a very, very long time. It's a mathematically agonizing way to live.
And psychologically exhausting. When you change your internal dialogue to focus on income, cash flow, and growth, it fundamentally alters your decision-making.
That's so.
Well, you stop seeing a $50 online course as an expense that ruins your weekly budget, and you start evaluating it as a CFO would, as an investment that might yield a $500 return in new skills.
That's the core shift right there. You stop evaluating your life by what things cost and start evaluating them by what they generate.
Yes, and that is the ultimate departure from the accountant. The accountant only sees the $50 leaving the account. The CFO sees the future capability entering the system.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's crystallize this framework for you. We've looked at three distinct roles fighting for control of your financial life. First, there's the accountant, obsessed with the past, beautifully documenting every dollar that has already left the building.
Providing the illusion of control without any actual strategy.
Right. Then there is the CEO, stressed in the present, trying to stretch a limited budget, optimizing every penny of expenditure, and basically trying to shrink their way to wealth.
And finally, there's the CFO, focused entirely on the future, looking at the horizon, asking how to multiply the cash flow and expand the total resources available.
The source material leaves us with one direct diagnostic question to evaluate exactly where you stand. And you have to answer this honestly for yourself.
Yeah, this is the big one.
Tomorrow morning, when you think about your money, are you going to be thinking about how to spend less of what you already have? Or are you going to be thinking about how to earn more?
Your honest answer to that question reveals the ceiling of your financial future. And I'd like to leave you with one final thought to ponder, something that builds on this entire framework.
Go for it.
We've spent this time talking about money, but money is really just a numerical representation of value. Think about your time. Think about your mental energy.
Wow, applying this to time management.
Yeah. If the accountant mindset traps our money in the past and the CFO mindset pulls our wealth into the future, how might this framework apply to how we spend our limited days?
That is deep.
Are you currently spending your evenings auditing yesterday's mistakes? Are you just trying to manage today's stress and survive the current limits like a CEO? Or are you actively investing your time and energy into tomorrow's growth?